Alright, so I'm hyped out of my mind for Kingdom Season 3. It's a nice way to tide us over. What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking Kingdom Ashin of the North, the brand new film that just dropped on Netflix that not a lot of people are talking about, but I love this show, so I can't wait to get into it. Spoiler free, let's do it. Ashin and her father are part of a foreign tribe that has settled within the kingdom. Their encounter with a mysterious disease sets Ashin down a path of betrayal, prejudice, and revenge. And while this film eventually gets into what we know in the second half of the movie, the first half of the film is this slow buildup of Ashin's character, why she is set out on the path that she goes on a bit later on in the film, and it gives you this tragic backstory to her that makes everything you already kind of know about her hit just a bit differently. And first of all, her performance is really good. I mean, there are multiple iterations of her character because we're kind of traveling through time, but once we get to where we are at the end, you can feel the emotion from what she has went through and what she goes through in this movie. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's not only tragic in nature, but the way it plays out on screen, and there's almost this like Shaun of the Dead element to what happens with her that just, not in a funny way, by the way, that just breaks your heart, and all of that is amplified by some of the best cinematography I've seen all year. I just came out of Snake Eyes, which is a film that I felt could have handled the fight sequences a bit better. Not the choreography, but the actual camera and camera movement. This movie, I mean, it takes what we know from Kingdom, both seasons. I mean, you always look at just the way that this is filmed and these constant wide shots, the camera panning across the battlefield. And this time we get a lot of forests, we get a lot of small villages, but we're still doing those camera movements that amplifies everything about what we're getting on screen. It looks phenomenal. The color correction is outstanding. The only thing that I had a little bit of a problem with was the CGI at times. It was a little spotty. At points, there are animals on screen that look good, and then there are other points when there's a deer and a tiger, and I'm like, the CGI, I guess, could have been just a bit better. But it was in the dark, so it doesn't stand out as something that takes you out of the film, which is great. Now, in terms of the story, like I said, the first half is a slow build-up. We're diving into the politics of things. We have some very haunting scenes, some scenes that'll make you very uncomfortable. There's one scene where they are cutting into a pig, and a lot of audience members, they're going to have this little, oh man, this is difficult to watch, but there are just so many moments that are that, but you kind of have to watch them to really know and appreciate what her character is. And it's so well laid out and presented to where you get on board with her motivations, but at the same time, she is so intense about a few things, and where this movie kind of leaves us off, she makes a vow at the end of the film that had me just kind of, whoa, this means a lot for the next season, and we're going to have to see where that leads her. And that's why I look at this as kind of an integral piece, one that, may have even worked better as a small season within itself, one that's focused on her, because there were opportunities to flesh more things out and to dive a little bit deeper into certain characters that I feel as if they were missed just a little bit, and on the level of what we get from Kingdom, because Kingdom is a lot of action and a lot of zombie madness. And while we get that absolutely in this movie, it does take about half of the film to start getting into that action, because the first half, like I said, is all build-up, and the pacing is slow. And I have a feeling not everyone's going to respond to that. Absolutely. Way slower than what we've gotten in the show thus far. While it did somewhat start to affect me at a point, I was still on board with the story, and I'm so locked into this world, and I'm so interested to see what continues to happen in the Kingdom universe, if you will. I was still engaged, I was still intrigued, and I was just mesmerized by the I'm going to keep harping on this, the incredible visuals of this movie. So this is a revenge tale that focuses on a character that is so persistent as a person, and someone who has to overcome so many obstacles. And think of like the most tragic thing that you can think of to happen to someone, and that probably happens to Ashin. I also love how it's connecting the dots between seasons. Part of me does believe that it feels more like a prolonged episode than an actual movie, and I have been calling it a movie this entire time because that's what it's presented as. And even though the pacing really did start to get in the way of things, Ashin of the North is a beautifully put together tale of vengeance that overcomes its pacing with a compelling story. And before I give you guys my score, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and come back because we're definitely talking Season 3. My score for Ashin of the North is a 73%, a really solid entry into the Kingdom franchise. Although I will say I don't prefer it over Season 1 or Season 2. It's definitely more of a standalone episode that gives us so much in terms of plot, and hopefully will tide fans over into the next season of one of my favorite shows on Netflix, and that is Kingdom. All right, guys, you're the best. More reviews to come. I'll see you soon.